Thank you all for being here today.
This is great. I'm so excited to host Jenny Abramson, our fantastic alumna, who I had the pleasure and privilege to work with many, many years ago, back in 2002. Jenny is the founder and managing partner of Rethink Impact. It's the largest VC company investing in female CEOs. You're Entrepreneurs Magazine, 100 Most Powerful Women. You've been called a DC Tech Titan. And you've also been named to Forbes Impact 50 alongside folks like Melinda and Bill Gates and also Serena Williams. So thank you so much for being here. I could go on and on, but let me not.
It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. It's really great to be here.
I think in the investment community, in every community, but in the investment community, AI is such a topic of interest, and generative AI. I'd just be curious, your thinking on how it will impact your specific business, but also the industry, generally. I know you've been doing work on that.
There are good sides of how it'll impact the industry and bad sides. I was just in the Bay Area for a board meeting. I asked a fellow board member for a ride home from a dinner. She then proceeds to say, sure, takes me to her self-driving car, which then took us to somewhere that was not my hotel. And we kept trying to tell it, this is not the right place. And there was no, so AI is not fully figured out yet. But okay, I would say the good side, I think in education, ed tech in particular, in terms of assessments and feedback and support, there are a huge number of opportunities there. I think simple things like RFPs that companies waste a ton of resources doing, there's a real opportunity there. Part of why there's so little investment in women and in diverse women even more is because venture capital is a pattern matching business. And so people tend to invest in people who remind them of themselves or people they've invested in before. At its best, AI should help take away that first screen that is just matching what you already know. But there's a risk that it does the opposite, that it pattern matches against everything you've already invested in and just reinforces this data that's happened. So I think the jury is out on whether on the investment side it helps us or hurts us. I think on the company, on the entrepreneur side, there's a huge opportunity.
How has it been over the last years being a woman in venture capital?
86% of people in jobs like mine, decision makers in venture capital, are men. And then beyond that, there's inequality in the types of questions that our entrepreneurs get asked in their pitches, which is there are promotion questions like, how big can your business be in 10 years, which is what most men get asked. And there's prevention questions like, what are you going to do in a downturn? And data, this woman, Donna Cans out of Columbia, has shown that female entrepreneurs, when pitching for money, are much more likely to get prevention questions, and men are much more likely to get promotion questions. And so I see it in our industry, but I think there's real opportunity because people are seeing the success behind women who do get backed.
What advice would you give your younger self, or what advice would you give the folks in this room that you wish you had heeded?
It's a great question. So you want me to tell stories about you from 25 years ago? Because I can go there. No, just kidding. I have really good ones. The private sector isn't just a place that you can actually have an impact and have purpose, which it is. And I wish my younger self had realized that. But it's actually a critical part of solving the world's problems. That if we had all of the nonprofit capital and all of the government resources, which are really important to solving our problems, we won't even scratch the surface, though, from those alone on our world's biggest problems. We have to have private capital put to work.
A lot of capacity in terms of care came out of the economy during COVID.
Yes.
And a lot of that capacity has not, and some say will not, ever go back in. I would love your perspective on the care economy.
Yeah, it's a $290 billion opportunity. So this isn't just a feel-good thing. This is a massive opportunity. And there are companies like Best Buy and Hilton and others who can't keep their frontline workers, who need to take care of their aging parents or seriously ill spouses. So we have companies like one I'm on the board of, Wealthy, like WELLTHY, Wealthy. And they are essentially helping companies have a concierge service to help use technology to get their employees the care they need for their loved ones, that matches their insurance plan, that does everything else. And what they have found is that people are a third less likely to take a leave of absence or quit if the company has Wealthy.
What is your view of the last 6 months in terms of some of what's happening in the economy, particularly as it pertains to North America?
I'm weird on this in that I actually like this moment because I think it brings businesses back to the fundamentals and, strong unit economics and all the things that Everett BCG thinks about, LTV to CAC ratios, everything else that I think a lot of people had ignored for a while. I think it's a really exciting opportunity for that reason. For women in particular, data has shown that they're much more capital efficient, 25% less capital used per month for a female-led business. And so I think it's a really exciting moment where women who maybe wouldn't have stood out, even though their businesses were better because they weren't doing growth at all costs, are actually having an opportunity to shine, is what we're seeing. I was fortunate. I mean, obviously, Sharon's a great example, but I have had great women and great men who, for whatever reason, were really helpful to me. At the Washington Post, there was a woman, Catherine Weymouth. He called me and said, so I've got this job, which was like, my dream job, that the person's moving. Do you want it? And I said, yeah, but I'm pregnant and I can't, And it was one of these moments. And she said, well, we'll hold it open. It's okay. And I sort of had these moments with people like that who had young kids who were doing it all. And then my mom, right, who was a single mom, raising kids, and working in an industry that most women didn't work in. And I think I didn't even realize at the time how much watching that and just seeing that as normal, I think that made having kids and still working something that, for me, I love to do, very much not really something I had to agonize and decide about the way, understandably, it is for so many people. I look for three things primarily. One, I like for people who are surrounding themselves with people who are different from them. And I think that all the data shows, and we all know that you have better ideas, you have better discussion, whether it's on boards, whether it's in the management team, if you have people who are different from you. And you got to do it from the beginning. And I think learning to do that long before you're a CEO is really important. I think always learning, right? It was crypto, now it's AI, it'll be something else. Being someone who can constantly learn new information, quickly digest it, is as important as being an expert in any one field. And I think that is something people underestimate. And then I'd say finally, communication. Ironically, ChatGPT might be willing to write your papers for you or write your investment memo or whatever it is people are using it for. The risk of that is people don't learn how to communicate themselves. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to communicate ideas in a way that isn't just the right answer, but actually is compelling to people. And I think those are three things that are really important.